How's everybody doing? It's Joe here from Webcast, and today I'm going to be looking at a brand new card from Sun and Moon that came out. It's called Dragonair. It's not actually this Dragonair. I do want to cover some stuff before I get into this video. So what I'm going to be doing is going to be talking about the new Dragonair, about how I think it can be used, and about some kind of cool combos that you can pull off with it, and just really get some discussion going. It's not a proper formal deck analysis or deck list. The list that I've got here is just sort of a sample kind of thing that I've been practicing and testing against a few different matchups, and sort of seeing how it goes from there. It's not exactly like a concrete thing set in stone, like this is exactly what you should play with it, or I've mastered it, or anything like that. It's just going to be some discussion about how I think the new card should be played, and about the best situations that I find it in. To confirm, this is the program that I'm using right here. To make it easy to me swap cards in and out of the deck and show you guys different things, as opposed to doing this IRL, which would take ages to set up, and I don't think I'd be able to show it off as well. This is Lackey CCG. It is a super, super, super useful program. I've been using it for years now. I really like it, especially when it comes to testing these decks that are like really based on early game combos. It's so good at testing some early turns like that. I've been built a bunch of Vileplume decks and this kind of thing. I've tested out. I've kept a bunch of lists. I use it to store lists and everything like that. It's just a really useful tool. It will be linked in the description below. Shout out to the guys who work on this, because I don't know where I'd be without it. It's really, really good, especially for cards that haven't come out yet, where I can just sort of make up my own proxies and go for it. Speaking of proxies, let's clarify this. This is meant to be the new Dratini. This is meant to be the new Dragonair. This is meant to be Orangaroo. This is meant to be Professor Kukui. And I think that's all of them. Yes, that's all of the new cards that I put into this. So, obviously, before we get into this, I should sort of go over what Dragonair does again. It does 90 HP, level ball searchable. I like this. Dragon Prayer for 1 colorless during your next turn. You may attach as many energy as you like to your Pokemon. Does not specify basic or special energy. It can be anything, which is just extremely useful. Tail Smack as well for 60 does come up. Bear this in mind. I will bring it up later on in the video. So, let's go through the deck. So, first of all, we're running 4/4 this Dragonair. Actually, hold on. I need to tell you what the new Dratini does as well, because it has this attack. Signs of Evolution. Search your deck for Dratini, Dragonair, and Dragonite. This is strictly the best one because A, it has 10 more HP, and B, that attack is really good when you're going second and you have a Dratini in the active spot. So there you go. That's why I'm playing this one. But, you can play the Roaring Skies one if you want, I guess. So yeah, the Dragonair, I'm obviously running a 4/4 line of it. What attack room am I using its power up? I'm powering up this Dragonite. This is from Roaring Skies. It's the Ancient Trait one. So, which means when it knocks out a Pokemon, you take an additional prize card. Has 160 HP, a stupid high retreat cost, a 5 energy attack that does 150 damage. It's a little lackluster in a lot of areas, but I think given the support from Dragonair, and given the fact that we've got a lot of non-EXs with less than 150 HP running around right now, this might just be enough to sort of carry it on as a decent enough deck. So you can read the card there yourself. It's there on the screen on the left. I think this is the optimal, not the optimal partner for it. There may be better partners. I think this one makes sense to me. So you sort of play Dragonair a bit like Greninja plays Frogadier. You have a stage 1 where you need to use a setup attack. And once you do, then you can go off. Then you have of course, this is a bit different because it only has a 1-turn window to sort of get all its energy down. It still works, don't worry about that. You can still get down an unholy amount of energy in 1 turn, and if you can't, you just sort of take a step back, you promote another Dragonair, and you go again. So this is the Pokemon that I've opted to power up with it, and one of the things that makes Greninja work is that you sort of accept you go down at least 2 prize cards, because you accept that a Froakie gets killed, and then your Frogadier gets killed, and then you start getting into the game. It's the same thing here. You sort of have to assume that a Dratini gets killed, and then a Dragonair gets killed. So you need a Pokemon that is able to have some kind of comeback potential. And I think the Delta Plus trait means the Dragonite has that comeback potential. You can actually just kill 2 Shaymins and win a game like that. Of course, if your opponent's, half decent, they're probably not benching 2 Shaymins. But the option exists. That's the point I'm trying to make. So that's why I've decided to partner with this. I think the Delta Plus trait makes it more viable. Because it means you can use the attack, get all the energy down, and then start going with heavy impact. So I'll just run through the Pokemon first of all. 2 Shaman, obviously for early game setup. 1 Orangaroo. This thing is, I'm kind of on the fence about it in the deck, but if you get it down in the first turn or two, it's so good. Because the turn where you use Dragon Prayer, that means next turn you'll have like a handful of energy and you just play all of them down. And then you use a Orangaroo to get 3 more cards. It's a really nice combo actually, because normally an issue with a Orangaroo is your hand gets clogged with energy and you've already attached for the turn, and you can't attach any more energy to lower your hand size. But it doesn't matter in this particular deck because you can just say, I'll attach all the energy and then I'll keep using Orangaroo. So super useful in that regard. We've also got 2 Shaman. This is just, it's way more explosive than Orangaroo. Sometimes drawing up to 3 is not enough. And finally, for attackers, 1 Jolteon. I had Giratina EX in here for a little bit, but I think Jolteon is so much better. For me, this is the ultimate partner for Dragonite in the deck for 2 reasons. 1, I was testing out the Yveltal matchup. I didn't like it too much. Obviously, because I have, 5 energy on me. they don't really have to go to great lengths to Evil Ball for the knockout. So I needed something that sort of shifted this back in my favor, and I think Jolteon is that something. For 2 reasons. 1 is most Yveltal's deck's way of dealing with Jolteon is Enhanced Hammer plus Flare Grunt, but that doesn't work against me because I don't run. I can power it up with like 2 lightning and a grass, or a lightning and 2 grass, or something like that. So that doesn't work against me. The other way I can beat it is Ranger. I have never seen an Yveltal list play Ranger, or it can play Escape Rope Lizard. I see very few Yveltal lists playing Escape Rope right now. Yveltal breaks another way and kind of deal with it, but I have Kukui, which will actually mean Flash Ray does enough damage to 1-hit KO break Yveltal if it really comes to that. So Flash Ray just, I think it shifts the Yveltal matchup really, like, not in your favor necessarily, but it turns it from an auto loss into very winnable, I feel. Just especially because you can power it up with basic energy. Swift as well is a pretty decent attack, because it does 30 damage. So if you lead off with a Swift, you can then follow up with a Heavy Impact, and you've done 180 in total, and you can take your 3 prize cards. So that works too. So yeah, that's why I think it's the ultimate partner for it. Giratina as well was something I tried. I just feel like if you're not Chaos Wheeling as soon as possible, what's the point? Like, you want to be using this attack, then Chaos Wheel. That's like 3 or 4 turns that your opponents had to get into the game, and I'm not a huge fan of that. So, onto the trainers. I'll go down to supporters first. 4 Sycamore, 3 N. I don't run Trainer's Mail, so I think the 3rd N is a necessity. 2 Lizard, none of this should surprise you. And 1 Kukui, which is, Birch's observations for the purposes of this video. If you've forgotten what Kukui does, it's plus 20 damage and draw 2 cards. So, plus 20 damage is obviously relevant because Heavy Impact plus 20 is 170. This means you can now kill Yveltals without Fury Belts. It means you can now kill Baby Volcanions with Fury Belts. You can now kill Greninja Break as well as another big one that is 170. 170 is just sort of a relevant number right now, I feel. So I think it's necessary that we run 1 Kukui to sort of allow us to hit that when we need to. I tried 2, but I think 1's fine. I'd rather cut 1 down and increase our end count, quite frankly. We've also got, that's it for the supporters. I would love a Hex Maniac in here. I think it would help the Volcanion matchup a lot, because I think that's quite difficult. Not unwinnable, but it's the idea that you can get this whole thing set up and then they just go, okay, so Volcanic Key for the knockout. And then you're at a loss. Then you're kind of screwed. It's a little bit of a difficult thing to play around, but if you can, great. Jolteon can stall out in it as well, but Volcanion has a lot more ways to deal with Jolteon than Yveltal does, so it works less well. But, the option exists, and it's nice to have it there. I feel like Hex Maniac might make it a bit better, because if you can Hex and take a KO on the same turn, you're basically going to stay alive for the next turn, which means you're putting on just so much pressure. And that might be enough to swing the matchup in your favor, but I don't know where I can find the room for the Hex. So we've also got 4 Ultra Ball, 4 VS Seeker. No surprises to anyone. 3 Professor's Letter. It's obviously a key card in this deck. We get Professor's Letter on the turn after we use Dragon Prayer. We just go ham with energy. It's just as simple as that. It also makes Ultra Balls a little easier to use because we can Professor's Letter and then Ultra Ball away the energy that we just took. And of course we run a Super Rod, so it doesn't really matter if we have to get rid of that energy. I've also got 3 Level Ball. It may seem really excessive when we've only got 2 targets, but if you miss the turn 2 Dragon Prayer, you're screwed. So you need to put so much emphasis on hitting the turn 2 Dragon Prayer that I don't mind running a high counter Level Ball to justify it. I think it's fine. Maybe you could cut one of them for an Evo Soda, but I think I'd really want to put a lot of preference on getting as many Dratini on the board as I possibly can in the early game. So yeah. We've also got one... Where are we now? Well, one Escape Rope. This is kind of an awkward point of the deck. I like the idea of Escape Rope, but at the same time, I kind of want Pokemon Catcher. I think the ability to take 2 prizes on anything is pretty great. Like you could Lizard up a Garbodor and take 2 prizes on it. You can Lizard up a Frynite and take 2 prizes on it. You can Lizard up a Froakie and take 2 prizes on it. This kind of stuff is just cool to me, and I think a Catcher might increase my odds of doing that. Escape Rope, to an extent, can do the same thing, but your opponent can play around it more, is the other thing. But I do also want to emphasize switching cards, because if you start with Shaman or Oranguru, although actually really, I mean, if you start with Shaman, you can attach Retreat to it. Jolteon is free Retreat. Oranguru has 2 Retreat cost, so that's really, if you start with this, you do need to hit your switching card super early, but other than that, it's not that bad. The other thing is, let's see, 1 EXP share. I think 1 is fine, because you're not going to get more than 2 Dragonites set up in a game. You got to win the game with the Dragonites you get into play. So I feel from that logic, it's pointless having more than 1 EXP share, because after the first Dragonite goes down, the EXP share will attach to the second Dragonite, and after the second Dragonite goes down, you're not going to get a third Dragonite. So there's no point having the other EXP share in play, if you get what I'm saying. So I feel like 1 EXP share is fine. Also, I don't want to clog my deck too much with cards that don't boost consistency, because we look at the amount of energy we run. Like, this is the reason we don't have Trainer's Mail. We got 2 Floatstone. Again, look, everything has really hefty retreat costs, and I like to be able to pivot, so that's why we got 2 Floatstone. 1 Shrine of Memories is my stadium of choice. I opted for Fairy Garden for a little bit, because obviously this counts as Fairy Energy, and it gives me free retreat, and it then frees up space, because I technically can cut a Floatstone as a result. But I think Shrine of Memories is just really, really good. I'd even consider upping it to 2. So the reason this is good is because after you use this, obviously your other Dragonites are going to have evolved from Dragonairs too. So what you can actually do is you can be like, let's say if you're really in a pinch and you absolutely cannot get any energy onto play, you can promote a Dragonite, and with 1 energy on it, you can still use Dragon, whatever it's called, Dragon Prayer, and get more energy into play the next turn. If you... Also, you have this attack for 150, but it's 5 energy. Where are we now? Let's bring this back to something that was really relevant, is Dragonair has an attack that does 60 damage. And 60 damage is a solid number to be hitting. So I'll explain why. First of all, 210 is a decent number. Yveltal with a Fury Belt has 210. Mega Mewtwo Y has 210. A bunch of other stuff has 210. I feel like we'd probably just get decimated by Mega Mewtwo Y anyway. But the point is, 210 is a semi-relevant number, and 60 plus 150 is 210. And it means you can use the 60 damage attack on the Pokemon that has the Ancient Trait. And that's crucial. As well as that, there are Pokemon that just have 60 HP. Like Froakie has 60 HP. If your opponent sees that you're playing double Dragon Energy, they're probably going to bench a Jirachi. Guess what? It's got 60 HP. I don't think people will expect it either. You could probably catch someone off guard like this as well. It's a nice follow-up attack when you're not able to commit another 5 energy to another Dragonite. If you can only get 3 on it, you can still do an attack and still take 2 prizes on a Froakie or something like that. And I think that's really cool. I actually think this deck has a pretty positive Greninja matchup, especially if you go first. Because if you go first, you go Trini, they go Froakie. Then you go Dragonair, then and use your attack. Then they go Frogadier and use water duplicates. Then you start using heavy impact to kill a Frogadier. They go into a Greninja. You use heavy impact to kill the Greninja. And now they're getting their breaks into play, but you've taken 4 prize cards and probably have another Dragonite on the bench. You can use a Kukui or a Luzon to win the game from that point. And that's super cool. Greninja can be a little bit awkward though as well because they can use Shadow Stitching, which puts you down to 120, and then 2 abilities will finish you off. And then they can Shadow Stitching again, and just sort of keep chaining it like this, so that can get kind of awkward too. If you really wanted to, like I said, you can run a Hex. I think I would like to fit a Hex in, maybe cut the Escape Rope for it, and see how it goes. I do like the idea of Escape Rope. I'm not sure which one of those cards would win me more matches, is what I'm trying to say. So I don't know. I think that's something I'd want to play around with though. The energy count, I didn't go through this, is 7 Grass, 3 Lightning, and 4 Double Dragon. I think this is fine. 3 Lightning is the optimal number because you want, I think 2 is as low as you could go because I really think you have to run Jolteon. I think it just fixes the Evil-Doll matchup. It means you can just keep using Flash Ray over and over and then all of a sudden come in with Dragonite to win the game, which to me is really, really cool. They can't even really Lizond around it too much because your bench will probably just be full of non-EXs. So, yeah, no, I think Jolteon just makes the most sense as the partner to it, and for that reason you need to run the extra amount of Lightning. This is 14 energy in total. You do get it down with Dragonair. I will do some test opening sort of games in a second, just after I talk through another few matchups. Like I've talked about the Evil-Tall matchup a bit. I've talked about the Greninja matchup a bit. Volcanion I think is just difficult. I think with Hexmaniac it could be much more winnable. I have sort of been able to beat it in just playing sort of like solitaire games against myself with it. But this is against like really stock Volcanion stuff. I think you're able to do it if you can hit Kukui early on enough so that you can start taking 2 prizes on the baby Volcanions. But I think Hexmaniac would just be so good. I think it would just be amazing in it for the matchup. Also, Lizonding up other baby Volcanions and using heavy impact if the Volcanion player isn't using Fury Belts, which a few lists aren't playing, then you're in a much better position as well, again, because of Swift math, because you can Swift, or Flash Ray even, which is probably way better against Volcanion. You can Flash Ray and then follow it up with a heavy impact for KOs and stuff like that, so that works too. To me, I think that's one of the more difficult matchups. Like I said, do I think this is a top tier deck? Not necessarily. Do I think this is a really fun deck and a really great idea and proof that the Dragonair thing works? Yes, I think it is. And that's really the point of what I wanted to sort of show off here in this video, was that you can get a ton of energy down with this thing. Maybe Dragonite's not the best partner, like I said, but again, get creative. It's a colorless attack cost. You can use pretty much anything you want. I think it does command high counts of level ball, so maybe if you can incorporate that somehow into the deck design in another way, like, I don't know, you want to run it with Vespiquen and get like a bunch of basic energy down or something so you're not weak to enhanced hammers. I don't know, that sounds really bad, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. Yeah, so I don't know, I think this is a cool deck. Other option as well, of course, is Ninja Boy. It doesn't work in this particular build because obviously I'm attacking with a stage 2, but if you want to go for an option where you just have the Dragonairs and basics, Ninja Boy I think will be a must. So you have much less pressure on you to put the energy on the right Pokemon. It would allow you to be a lot more flexible. There'd be a much bigger margin for error. I think you could put them on a Jolteon and suddenly feel, I don't want this on a Jolteon. Ninja Boy this into Evil-Doll or whatever it is you're playing. The other kind of concept that you could use with this is like, we've seen a lot of decks or weird rogue builds that are like Garbodor with Jolteon and Glaceon and Regice and this kind of stuff. I think this could be another option for it too. So a big way to play around those decks is just to hammer off the energy. And even something like Evil-Tall that runs 2 Enhanced Armor, 1 Flare Grunt is able to do that and is able to take games because of that. So I don't know. I feel like this is just another way to get around it. Again, it's much harder to deal with these kind of Pokemon, these kind of lock Pokemon, when they have nothing but basic energy on them. It removes an entire condition for winning, and it also allows you to be more flexible with your energy. You could easily run like 6 Water, 6 Lightning, and get all, like, not all of them, but the vast majority of them down by turn 3. And all of a sudden your board looks super, super threatening. The other thing I want to point out with this deck is it allows you to run extremely splashable attackers. Let's say you didn't like the fact that Dragonite was weak to Fairy, and you wanted to run a Metal type to counter that. You could, of course, run... I should have been doing this all along for all the cards I've been talking about, but you could, of course, run Magirna EX to deal with that. You would only need to run one Metal Energy because the nature of the deck involves you running high counts of Professor's Letter. So you can just assume that you're going to hit that Metal Energy because you can search for it with so many different things. So that's probably a very loose example, but the point is that you can run things that require really specific energy costs. Obviously, one of my favorite Pokemon, Ho-Oh EX, is something I love using, even though the attack cost is just, it's ridiculous. But that's a ridiculous attack cost, but it's something you can pay now. And again, you can run this with second coat Smeargle and you'd probably be fine. You can get the fire energies on, no problem. This might be a completely different way to run the deck. I'm going to try this out too myself. I think this is probably terrible right now just because of Greninja and Volcanion being big. I don't think having a water weakness is a particularly good idea right now. The other thing, again, I mentioned this in my sort of first reactions to the Sun and Moon set video, but this card is really good right now because Tri-Edge with a Fury Belt will take 2 prizes on Baby Volcanion and on Froakie and on Jirachi promo and a bunch of different things. Pikachu's, Combees, all these kind of things. And again, it's super easy to power this up with the Dragonair. So the point of this video, I guess, was saying that this is my list so far for this kind of concept deck. And this is just a particular attacker that I chose to use. This is kind of a little more harder to use than other random basic Pokemon because it means I need to have a board constantly full of Dratinis so that I can be constantly evolving them up into Dragonairs and stuff like that. But the point is that I've built a deck and it proved to me that Dragonair works. Now we're at the point where we can start looking at other cards and saying what kind of partners for this card are really, really good. So I'm going to hop into, let's see, game offline. I should have just gone load entire deck to you. That would have been easier. And hopefully it doesn't decide to draw dead on me here. 7. I'm mulligan a lot on this. I also call the coin flip simulator on this Tails Simulator because I don't think I've ever hit heads on it. Okay, cool. We got 7 Pokemon. Or 7 Pokemon. 7 cards in hand. Alright, I hope everyone can see. I'll pull this up a little bit to make it easier. Yeah, now you can see my hand a bit better. So we'll draw for turn. Bench this. Let's say I'm going first and the Dratini survives, for example. So I'm going to now Ultra Ball away like Lizond and Float Zone. I can go through the deck. Reveal to owner all. Grab a Shaman. Going to attach Grass Energy here. I put the Shaman in hand. Shuffle the deck. Shaman for 1, 2, 3, 4. Bench another Dratini. And... I think that's fine. Again, it's a bit like Greninja opening turns where the ideal opening turn is just 2 Froakie. But it's a little more... 3 Dratini is great to get turn 1. You could argue I got a little lucky there, but I didn't hit any of my level balls, which would have also gotten me the same thing. So... And I've got another Ultra Ball in hand if I did want to keep searching about another Shaman if I wanted to keep digging. So I get 3 Dratini quite a lot with this deck, and that's ideal, I think. So pass the turn there. And then draw for turn. It's a Grass Energy. Let's see. So obviously I'm going to evolve. Going to Ultra Ball away, Lizond, and Grass Energy. I think now is when I start getting out things like... I could get out another Dratini. I think that's fair, because it's likely that this one gets KO'd this turn. So I'd attach this. Orangaroo would have been a nice target there as well, but what can you do? That's not essential. So then Shaman for 6. There's 6 cards. I can level ball for another Dratini. If they're not prized, they're not. Cool. There we go. And let's not forget I haven't attacked yet this turn. So I'm going to Ultra Ball away this and the N. And we're going to get our Orangaroo. Oh, is he prized? I should have checked that. All right, well, we'll just get out Dragonite and assume we didn't get disrupted. So then we use the attack. And this gets killed. And I promote this. And I drop a turn. So then we go Dragonite, Energy, N. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1. Professor's Letter, 2, 3. Attach both those. I could have powered up the Jolteon, as you saw as well. I could play Escape Rope if I want to force my opponent into something they don't want to, promote. I just need to slap a double dragon on this to keep it going, and I've got a 5 energy attacker right up here. So that's basically how these turns go, and that's just my kind of showing you guys that that's the kind of turns you expect to have with this deck. And now you, assuming you're not against Yveltal, you've got a 160 HP attacker. That's a lot of HP. Even Vespiquen can't really deal with this early game. Things like that. I don't know. I think it's a really nice deck. Again, I'm not sure if Dragonite is the ultimate partner for it, but that's just what I wanted to show off, was just sort of how the deck functioned, and talk about Dragonair for a bit, because it's a card I've been playing around with, and it's a card I like a lot. Anyway, guys, I hope you've learned something about Sun and Moon. Let me know if you like the format for these videos. I quite enjoyed doing this. I quite enjoyed sort of just talking from the top of my head about cards that I've been playing with a lot, and sort of getting discussion going in that kind of format, so I hope you guys have appreciated that too. Anywho, this has been Joe from Whoopcast, and I will see you next time.